Obviously, very pleased with the win. All wins are good wins. Really pleased with the week. Pleased with the persistence and perseverance of our football program. Obviously, when you're sitting at 0-3, there's not a whole lot of positive thoughts firing through your head. That's hard to do as an adult, let alone as a kid. And you have expectations, and you want to play good football, and you want to win games, and you're 0-3, and you can't get that taste out of your mouth. There's no way to get the taste out of your mouth unless you don't care, like we always talk about. If it's easy, then you don't really care, and our kids and our coaches care. So it was a grinding week. It was a very quiet week for us. Then you lose as many guys to injury as we did. You go into the game, we have 5 starters out on offense and 3 starters out on defense, and then you have key backups also out. So now you're looking at, you're beat up, you're 0-3, and you're now all of a sudden the injuries hit you, and you got every reason to doubt. You got every reason to make excuses. You got every reason not to fight like you need to fight. And very, very proud of our kids, very proud of our coaching staff. We came out and played our best football, even though we were very, very shorthanded. You're talking about 36.4% of your starters not playing. That's a pretty good percentage. And some of your best players, not just your starters, but your main guys, main weapons. And we talked all the week about opportunities and kids stepping up, and that's what you come here for. You don't come here to be a backup. You come here to play, and it's not necessarily the way you want to become a starter. When somebody goes down, you're not like happy for it, but you're still a starter now, and it's your opportunity, and then what you make of that opportunity. And we saw a lot of kids make a lot of their opportunities on Saturday. Offensively, played a clean game. First of all, we don't turn the ball over. Second of all, we had very few 3-and-outs. We run the ball effectively, obviously, throughout the game, which you wanted to going in based on their struggle stopping the run, so which we talked about all last week, but you still got to go do it. Obviously, Zoe was healthy. Zoe played very little against Minnesota. He was hurt, most of the game against Minnesota. He was finally healthy and looked like Zoe again. Obviously, they junked their front. They played double eagle, which they hadn't played. They ran a bunch of corner blitzes, which we'd seen a little, but they were doing everything they can to stop the run, and we handled a bunch of things up front that we really weren't even prepared for. And then, obviously, when we got Zoe any space at all, he was very difficult for them to tackle, and had a huge day for us. Then passing game was very efficient. We didn't have to throw it a ton. Obviously, when you're running the ball effectively, you don't necessarily have to throw the ball as much, which is always nice. But we had 2 key third downs, one to Sorensen, one to Homer on touchdown scoring drives. Those are the ones that no one remembers. They just remember you got up big and you're up 24-3 at half and you extended 31-3. But there's some key plays that, if you don't make those plays, which we had in previous weeks, you're off the field and you don't get the lead to 24-3. So 2 of our touchdown drives in the first half, we had key third down completions that kept drives alive. So when we had to execute our pass game, we did it very well. We hit a couple goal balls, which is nice. It's something we've been very good at. We haven't been as efficient through 3 weeks in throwing the goal ball. We threw one to Jack for a touchdown. We threw another one to Mayak for a chunk play. So we got to continue. That's kind of what we do. It's one of our bread and butter things. Obviously, defensively played fantastic. Same group of kids. They had 4 starters back on their O-line. They still got Miller, who's torched us. They had 2 great tailbacks a year ago. One of the 2's back. They've been piling up yardage and points against good opponents, and we pretty much shut them down for 50 minutes. We didn't give up a lot of first downs. The Claire kid, I was honestly shocked at how well we defended and how well we tackled him, because Oregon couldn't tackle him, and he's a really good player, and he killed us a year ago. I mean, he made us look really bad a year ago. And then we defend the pass real well, and we did a really good job on Miller. Miller's a dynamic player. I wasn't hoping he was hurt for long, but he had a hamstring injury. I was certainly hoping he wasn't going to play against us. I ain't lying. When I saw him in pregame bouncing around, I wasn't super excited, because he's just been a dynamic player in this league. I mean, he ran by Oregon, caught a 65-yard go route against Oregon, and caught a ball and pulled away from Oregon's DBs, which I know Oregon's DBs are probably a little faster than my DBs. So we did a really good job on him. The whole game, he was pretty much a non-factor, and that's the first time we've played him that he was a non-factor. He's been he's a big-time player every week. So a potent offense. We really did a good job defending. We still got to tackle better. We still got to get off blocks better. We still got to get smarter. But that's we for 3 straight weeks we've taken a step in the right direction offensively. We still got or defensively we've got a ways to go. But we feel like if we can keep working on getting better, we're going to keep doing some nice things on that side of the ball. Then I thought ST was good. Particularly our kicker and punter were really good. Slomer and Kramer, we kick off 7 times and we only have to defend one of them. You know, the first one in the wind, and we tackled him on the 16. The other 6 were all the kicker just took care of his business. And then same thing with the punts. Our punter Kramer did such a nice job. We didn't have to tackle anybody the whole game. And that really changes your coverage teams when your kicker and punter do such a good job. And obviously we gave up a big punt return against Marshall, which was critical. We gave up a big punt return against Minnesota, which was critical. So now, and you punt the ball properly and you get good coverage and you force fair catches, it makes the game a lot easier.
So how was the injury situation this week going into Western Michigan?
Yeah, it's about the same. We lost DeAndre Daniels on the 3rd play of the game. I would say most of the guys that didn't play last week are doubtful for this week. So most of the injuries aren't season-ending, but they're bumped and bruised. So it's not good, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be good for another couple weeks. So that's kind of is what it is.
How much do you attribute the performance this Saturday to a change in mindset, a change in mentality on your end versus maybe a drop-off in competition, given how hard first 3 weeks were?
Yeah, it's always hard to judge. You know what I mean? I think that's a good question. You're always trying to balance like our improvement versus who you played, and I felt like, for instance, the first thing I said after the game, are we getting better tackling, or did Claire not have as good a day as you usually have? You know what I mean? That was the first thing I said in the locker room, because I thought we tackled Claire very well. And last year we couldn't tackle them at all with the same kids. So are we getting better? I hope, like, you're hopeful as a coach, hey, we're working a lot on tackling. We're working a lot on our angles. We're working a lot on our technique tackling. So I think your question is crazy valid I think some of it has to do with the competition. Obviously, is all our run game issues from the first week resolved because we ran against a team that's given up a lot of yards rushing? I think that's still yet to be determined, right? But at least we did run against them. Other teams that run against them, we knew we had to run against them, and obviously we ran wild against them. So you did what you needed to do, and you did it. You did it beat up mentally and crazy beat up physically. So I think for us the approach is never different. We don't change our approach, so we don't. We certainly are very mindful of our record. That's what we do. We do this all year round to try to win football games. So it's crazy important. But our record doesn't dictate how we react to things and how we act. And we had to fight a little harder as coaches last week because we know our kids were down. And then they have all those injuries. It gives you more reason to be down. So we had to fight a little harder. But we're always, like we tell our kids, we're never going to stop fighting. We're not going to do that. So I think the biggest thing was getting over the mental hurdle of, where we're at mentally and physically and fighting through. And I think our kids did a good job. And I think we had some really good leadership on our team. Some kids had some crazy energy in pregame, and you're on the road and there's not a lot of energy, and we created some of our own energy and got after them pretty good.
First 2 weeks, threw the ball over 40 times, week 1 and week 2. The past 2 weeks you've thrown the ball, it looks like 23 times and 15 times. Is that a sign of things to come, or is that attributed to more just game plan week by week?
Yeah, and I think game flow more than anything. Obviously, Marshall, we got weighed down, and that forced us to throw the ball a ton. Cincinnati, we're playing from behind. We want to run the ball. We want to be more balanced. We're not trying to throw it 50 times and run it 15. We're not necessarily trying to run it 50 times and throw it 15. But again, there's games. Sometimes other teams' game plans dictate you throw the ball a little bit more. I always say we want to take advantage of what they're looking. If they're really trying to load up and stop the run, we want to throw the ball. We've done that effectively, through time. We haven't done it as effectively this year, but if we have good run looks, we want to run the little ball. So we want to be able to do both. I thought Saturday we could do both. Obviously, the run game was going so good. We didn't call as many passes, but that's just basically the flow of the game. And then you have a lead, and you're not thinking about whipping around a bunch in the second half when you have a big lead.
So what do you know about Western Michigan then?
Know a lot. They're ranked first in the league in offense. They've run the ball crazy. Their offensive statistics are mind-boggling. You look at some formations. Their number one formation that they've run, more plays out of than any other formation this year. They're averaging 9.85 yards per play in their number one formation. I've never even seen that. Like, if you're averaging 5 yards per play in your number one formation, that's pretty dang good. They're averaging almost 10 yards per play. Because sometimes you have formations that you've run 15 times and you got a couple chunk plays and then the stats look really good in that formation. But your bread and butter formation, you don't average 10 yards per play. They got tremendous tailbacks that are game breakers. Every single week for the last, at least since I've been in the league, they're breaking off touchdown runs of over 50 yards every week, all right? And they run the ball and they're persistent and they pound the ball and they run a bunch of different schemes from mid-zone. They love the mid-zone. They run inside zone. They run split zone. They run counter. They run insert plays. They do a lot of different things. They run the train play. But they just stick with it, and then they kind of know they have game-breaking backs, and they figure, like, if we get the ball in their hands 40 times, there's going to be a couple creases, and when they get creases, they go the distance. The Bellamy kid is crazy fast. And then all the other backs continue to run away from everybody they play, even when they play better people. And then they throw the ball over people's heads. They push the ball down the field, and they get chunk plays in the passing game. Their big play tapes is long. We watched it last night. Their big play tape in the breakdown was like 48 plays, and it's insane how many big plays they've had through running through air. And they're pretty simple. They've got a strong-arm quarterback. They got fast receivers. They do a good job protecting, and they create tons of big plays, and they score in a hurry. They were down, 35-7 at Syracuse. They came back and almost won the game. They could score so quickly and do it week in, week out. Defensively, they're really sound. They do a lot of different things up front. They do a lot of things to move guys around up front to give you different front looks to defend the run. They play hard. They're physical. They have an interesting schedule because they've played a couple really high-end opponents where they struggled defensively, which kind of a little bit to be expected. I'm sure they want to, defend the score a little better than they did, but when you play teams that are really talented at higher levels, it's sometimes difficult. And then they played a couple other teams that they really had a huge advantage against. So it's been weird. They've had two where they were probably physically up against a little bit, and then they've had two where they were physically dominant. So when you watch a couple of games, it's, they look like the Patriots, and then, big difference. So their schedule's been weird that way, that it's hard to get them to really like opponents, because I don't know that they've really had a similar opponent to themselves. Probably Syracuse was the closest game, I guess, the most competitive game, the way it turned out, and they had a great comeback and really rolled on offense. So we'll see. It'll be interesting.